Hold on. There's this thing coming up, popping up out of nowhere. What is going on? Happy Monday. Happy today. I hope everybody's having or had an amazing day. I literally just came from working and checking in on some stuff. And I was like, I gotta talk to my people because lately I've been thinking a lot about success and failure. I've been thinking a lot about like why people go through the cycles that we go through sometimes. And one of the things that just hit me, even though it's a concept I've been exploring for some time now, the one thing that just hit me that I was like, nah, I'm gonna start talking a lot more about this is resistance, right? When we're resisting what we want, but we don't even know we're resisting it, that is sometimes the biggest downfall, the biggest issue that we experience as a whole, especially because, I was one of my videos, I think it's one of my shorts where I talk about how you are divine timing, which I have plans to kind of go deeper into that. But somebody came on and asked me some really, really good questions around, what if they're so ready? What if they're putting in all the work, they're putting in all the effort, or whatever the case is? Because the video basically says, you are divine timing. When you are truly, genuinely ready for what it is that you want, that is when you will get it. And they came on just kind of asking questions. And to me, I'm like, oh, these are some profound and beautiful questions that I took and, created a video about. But I keep thinking about how a lot of the questions that they were asking is also questions that in one-on-one coaching sessions I would get. And even questions that even while I know the answers and I like talk to my divine team and I know everything that I know right now, the wisdom that I have right now, I still find myself asking them because the cycle that we experience, the consistency of, manifesting something, putting in the effort, putting in the work, going towards it, getting it, receiving, being successful, and then failing or feeling like we failed or things not going where it is that we want to go, it is disheartening. Like it sucks. It hurts. Okay. And, in my life, I've had a share fair of ups and downs and a lot more downs than I like to even admit. However, there's a lot of ups that connect to those downs too. So it's a crazy idea. But just now I was working and working on some new concepts, working on different things, or whatever the case is. One of the things that really hit me is as much as we're manifesting what it is that we're manifesting, when you're manifesting something, when you are asking God, you're asking the universe, you're asking your divine team, and you're asking yourself to make certain changes in your life, the one thing that I don't think we recognize is a big resistance for us is the changes that we're asking for. They're also the things we're resisting. Hi, guys. Hello. Welcome, welcome. Right. But like, we ask for change without really checking in on our relationship with change. And a lot of us don't have a good relationship with change. Like, we're sitting here doing all of this manifestation work. We're sitting here putting in all of this effort into, what it is that we want. Hi. Right. Like, we're putting in so much effort into what it is that we want. We are asking for change. We're, praying on our knees. We are doing all of the necessary work for us to have the change that we want. However, we don't like change. And I'm not saying that we don't like all change. I think some change we do like. We like when the room temperature goes from super hot to cool, right? We like changes that we can bear, changes that are comfortable, changes that we can make sense of. But a lot of times when we're asking for a manifestation to come through or we're asking for something to happen, we're asking for big changes to take place. And both those changes are going to be good and bad because your perception of change is going to matter. But it's like you can't ask for major changes in your life and not expect for you to have to make significant changes in your life that you don't like and that you don't necessarily want to make. And a lot of, I've been doing a lot of just like thinking and talking and praying and meditating on, success and how to go from lack to abundance and how lack is very much connected to abundance. And if you guys have watched that video, I talk about how it's literally one and the same. But one thing that I just keep thinking about consistently is we as human race, we are the quickest to adapt. We know how to adapt to different things. We know how to survive. It is literally in our brains and our nervous system. That is what we're literally wired to do is survive. And that's the problem sometimes. Because what we do is survive, we don't actually like change because change tells us that it's dangerous. Change tells us that we're actually going towards something or doing something that we're just not used to. And when we're not used to something, nerves arise, anxiety arrives, all of the feelings and emotions that we don't want to feel, all of the truths that lie underneath, the surface level feelings that we feel sometimes is right there, and it's vulnerability, and vulnerability is scary. And I just keep thinking about people who complain, including myself, about how they're doing all of the work, they're putting in all of the effort, they're doing everything that they need to do, and yet change they're not really necessarily seeing. And one of the things that I told somebody on one of my videos was resistance is usually why we don't necessarily receive the manifestations that we want. Resistance is usually why we end up staying or repeating cycles. And they asked something which was really profound. They're like, I'm always going to make mistakes. I'm always going to have trauma. I'm always going to go through things because I'm human. So, how do I kind of like stop the resistance? I'm paraphrasing. I'll go back and, like I said, I'm going to record a video. But one thing that I realize is it's not that you stop the resistance. We're going to feel resistance because at the end of the day, when we don't like something or when we're starting something new, there is a level of resistance, and that's a level of discernment. We need that. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just we have to become more open to change. Like when you start manifesting, when you start asking for something, you ask God for a shift in your life, or you're asking for a shift. You also have to understand what you're praying for. A lot of times we think like we ask for things thinking we know exactly how it's going to go, right? So if we're asking for more money, we're assuming that more money is just going to show up and we're going to be able to pay for everything. If we ask for, a deep romantic connection, we just assume that someone's going to show up and make us just so incredibly happy. But where we fail or what we do is we want to focus so much on the abundance. We want to focus so much on the happy. We want to focus so much on the good that we're actually not taking time to master what we look at as lack or problematic or issues that are necessary. Like they have to arise even when the good is around. Like you do not have good if you do not have bad. You don't know good if you don't know bad, right? And so one of the things that I think we struggle in is that things get good for us or we're asking for good while trying to completely dismiss and act as if the bad doesn't exist. And that is where we're going wrong. We also are so used to things happening a certain specific way. We're so definitive in how things need to go down that we don't have an open mind to things going down differently from what we think it's supposed to be. And whatever it is that we're praying for, whatever it is that we're manifesting in our lives, we're manifesting it, but we don't realize that it's also going to come with opposite energy. It's also going to come with a part of it that we don't necessarily like and that we don't necessarily appreciate. And the better, like when we're going through difficulties, right? The better we are at mastering the difficulties and mastering our responses to those difficulties, because we have no control over what happens, but we do have control over our responses. The more we master that, the better we are at life, the better we are at receiving the good, the better we are at adapting to change. And I think that those are the two things that I see is like a huge issue for people in general that are actively manifesting and, moving towards better. It's that we have this very interesting and very like almost problematic relationship with change. And then we don't appreciate lack and low vibration for exactly what it is because it's a cycle. Hey, hello. But yeah, it's a cycle. And the thing about cycles is that it goes like this, right? So that means that there's a top and then there's a bottom. And what we do is when we're at the bottom, we're praying to be at the top. And when we're at the top, we don't realize that at the top, you are still going to experience the equal bottom energy or lower energy, right? So, for example, one example that I was giving somebody was, let's say you're at $100,000 right now in your bank account and you're manifesting to literally hit $1 million. Fantastic. Oh, love that. Right. So the way you go about hitting $1 million is you start your own company. And with this company, you go and invest a lot of money because you know that the investments you're making is really going to just scale your company to the next level. And it's really going to make you the millionaire that you want to become. You at $100,000 maybe had student loans left of, let's say, $30,000 that you needed to pay off. However, when you decided to think bigger and go bigger and be bigger, you went towards being a millionaire, which means that now your debt is no longer $30,000, but your debt actually has grown a little bit more to $100,000. The reality is that's a bigger debt, but you have a better way of going about it. You've paid off all of your student loans because you've made the money that you needed to make within your company. However, you have greater debt for greater purpose because you're leveraging it, because you're no longer seeing it as lack. You're no longer seeing it as a negative, but instead you're understanding it from the positive standpoint that it is. But in order for you to get there, you have to master debt. You have to master the fact that the debt that you are so scared of, the debt that you're trying to run away from, the debt that you don't want, is actually the thing that is getting you to where you want to be. It's the first step to getting you to where you want to be. You want to make money, you got to spend money. You want to win, you got to be willing to lose, right? So that's where we go wrong. We always want something without really thinking about what we're manifesting. Any good thing you're manifesting in your life, any positivity you want in your life is going to come with its negatives. And the reason why we enter the same cycles is because we're handling the negatives the exact same way. We have the same mindset about the negatives. We're looking at the negatives the same way we've always looked at it, which makes us respond to it the same way. And then we find ourselves in the same exact positions. But what the cycle is really trying to get us to do is trying to get us to look at the negatives, look at the low vibes, look at the problems and solve them differently. Go about them differently, meaning you got to change. You got to change the way you're going about it. You got to change the way that you're handling it. You got to change the way that you're dealing with it. And when you change that, that's when you get to experience that growth. That's when you are in alignment with calling in what you need. Because what you don't know is as much as you're calling in the solution to your problem, you don't know that that solution probably comes with other problems that you're not going to like and probably going to handle the same way. So the reason why you're not getting what it is that you want is literally because you're not ready for what you want. What you want comes with problems. And if you're handling your current problems like this, and you need to be better equipped to handle the problems that come with the thing you want, until you become better equipped at solving problems and dealing with your problems, you will not call in what you want. Because as far as the universe is concerned, you're just not in alignment with it. While you are maybe in this place of victim mode, what you're calling in is asking you to be in pure leadership mode, which means that there's really no place for victimizing yourself. And there's really no place for you to kind of be in that energy of, oh my God, what am I going to do? And that's the part that I think we miss. That's the part that I think we don't really necessarily understand, or we don't necessarily like think about when we're manifesting. And nobody really talks about that as much, right? It's not really as talked about. It's just like align with it and you can get it. Yes. And part of that alignment is aligning with the idea that that low vibe is asking you to become a better version of yourself. Not a better version of yourself that has all the things you want, but a better version of yourself that, in the midst of dealing with the low vibe, the problem, the issue, you are literally better. And when you are better, you climb to the top next level every single time. That's something that like I'm exploring and I have been exploring and I've been dealing with my problems so differently and now my problems are different. It's like even when I want to, claim that they're the same, they're really not the same anymore. The problems that I have today because I've changed the way that I problem solve, I critically think, and the way that I go about my issues, and even the way that I see my issues, I'm doing things differently. So now my problems are just not the same. They're just not as problematic as they once were before because there's an inner peace in me that I've found because I've allowed myself to change. However, the issue that I do see right now is that while I'm going towards new and I'm asking for new and I'm manifesting the new, I realize that I am not so open to new because it requires change. And I like my comfort zone. I like, kind of like doing what it is that I know I do. I like being in a level of comfort. And even when I tell myself I'm open to change, when it comes to big change, that my nervous system is just in a place of saying, nah, we've never done that before. Mm-mm, nah, we're not doing that. Mm-mm. It's like something happens to me where I realize that it's a big jump and it's a big change, and that's where procrastination comes in. And I think that's what a lot of us go through. However, I'll still be working, I'll still be doing things, I'll still be putting in effort. So now I've convinced myself that I'm doing everything I could possibly do to call in the manifestation. even though I'm actively resisting the one thing that I need to do to actually make a massive shift and a massive jump in my life. That is that quantum jumping that you hear about. That is that shifting that you hear about that a lot of people are terrified of. This right here is a concept that I'm going to go even deeper on and look at from multiple perspectives and go into different like levels of my life and different situations in my personal life, career and personal, romantic, all of that stuff that showed up like this. But as I was thinking it through, I was like, we are not so accustomed to change. We're not so comfortable with it. And we don't realize what lack does for us. We don't realize what the low vibration or the opposite of what we're asking for is doing for us when we're sitting in it. It is requiring better of us. It's requiring a change. It's requiring a jump so that we can receive what it is that we want to receive, which means that change is inevitable and necessary. I wanted to share that with y'all because I'm like, this could be a series. Do you see what I'm saying? Like we could have a whole show about this because I think so many of us don't even realize that we're doing this. And then the ones that do realize that we're doing this, we're still not making the change. So the question is why? Right? Why are we not making the changes? Why are we not choosing to have a better relationship with change and a better relationship with our lack? This this is where I get extremely curious, but we're going to go deeper. We're going to get divine messages. I want to see how far we can take this and how we can all together as a crew just become better at manifesting what we're manifesting. We understand the manifestation techniques. We hear all of the beautiful stories of people who have manifested tens of billions of dollars and manifested their dream life and dream careers and dream situations. But now let's look at it from a different perspective. Maybe lack, maybe the problems, maybe the issues that we've always experienced in our lives, they're not necessarily the most horrible things. They're actually just opportunities. And if you haven't watched that video, make sure you go watch that video, right? Because you're thinking about lack wrong. But we're also thinking about change wrong by not thinking about it at all. So that's all I got for you. Little Monday thoughts, little Monday juice. I don't know what we calling this yet, but it's a little something that I had to put out there. Every time I get like thoughts or something of that sort, I'm just gonna come on. I'm just gonna talk to y'all. So there's no schedule, but I just felt like that was important for us to just explore a little bit, and hopefully you can explore that for yourself. Ask yourself, how open are you to change? Honestly, and have you even thought about that? And can you be incredibly radically honest with yourself to know how open you truly are? These are questions that need answers. But until next time, I'm sending y'all love. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being here. I always appreciate it. Mwah. Bye.